Want to bring in now CNN aviation safety analyst David Susi. David, Polo talking about the fact, too, that the plane has moved. We know a GO team has been sent there. We're actually expecting a briefing in just about an hour, hopefully from the NTSB, so we can get a little bit more information. But this investigation has already started. Where do they begin? Is it simply looking at the engine, or is there a lot more to it?
Well, there's a lot more to it than that. They're going to be looking at all of the records and see what happened. They're going to be interviewing the pilots. It's quite an extensive process from here forward. But yes, the engine, everything on the engine has to be contained. It looks to me as though there may have been some outside collision of some kind to cause this. I'm not certain at this time that it was something internal in that engine.
So it may not have been, we were talking earlier in the hour about a similar incident, or what could have been a similar incident back in 2016 with the same airline. And that, of course, immediately comes to mind. But you're saying it could be something else entirely?
Yeah, on that incident back in 2016, if you remember, it was an uncontained engine failure in which the blades inside the engine that are turning at quite a fast rate come loose or come off or break. And that went through the containment and into the fuselage of the aircraft. This is much different than that. This is all contained in the front part of the aircraft engine, which is where the de-icing is. There's a lot of air going through there. A lot of good information from that interview you just did as well that enlightens me as to what might have caused this too.
And so what specifically so what we were hearing there from the passenger, Christopher Johnson, what was it that really stood out to you?
Well, the fact that he was 20 rows behind where the incident occurred, what that tells me is that whatever struck that window came almost directly from the engine into the side of the aircraft. It didn't come off and loose and then go back to the back of the aircraft. So that would indicate that something of a very high velocity, whether it was from the spinning turbine blades or whether it was from something that exploded or ruptured off the aircraft engine and went into the side of the aircraft, plus the fact that it had depressurized immediately. And it got cold. I mean, it is 40 or 50 degrees below zero up there. So when that air starts coming in, it's going to be cold. And the fact that he noticed that is something that most people don't expect when that sort of thing happens.
He also talked about, obviously, the change in pressure that he felt. The time, I mean, I sort of have this idea, and I tend to fly a lot, but this idea in my head that we see in movies, that as soon as something happens and the pressure changes in the cabin, you have a finite amount of time, but it seems like it would be much less. I mean, how much time do you have if this happens at, let's say, 20,000 feet to get to a safe level for everybody inside that plane?
It has to be within just a few minutes. One of the things people don't understand is that the oxygen tanks, there's actually not oxygen tanks. It's an oxygen generator, a chemical activity that's going on to put oxygen to the masks for you. So that only lasts about 10 minutes. That's the maximum time that you would have from the oxygen itself. So that's how much time they have to get down. But also remember, at that altitude, as cold as it is, and at those low pressures, you really only have a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, to make sure you get the oxygen on and back down to that altitude. So it's something you have to very much be prepared for.
Yeah.
If you think about it for too long, you already don't have enough oxygen to think properly.
And a lot of praise that we have heard for this captain, for this crew, in terms of how everything was handled. David, really appreciate your insight as always. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eric.